Hello there. Welcome back, B-Day. I'm so sorry that we get to miss another day with each other, but I'm going to do a quick just summation of what you need to do for class today. So I'm going to have a quick check-in. If you can complete the discussion board, that's the attendance for today. And then I'm going to have a video. I recorded my third period with this exact lesson, so you'll get the whole full like 30 plus minutes of it, me explaining persuasive essays. So you're going to focus on the STAR persuasive essay that you wrote a few days ago in the day 11 and 13 folder, so feel free to open that up. You're going to copy and paste that and work on the thesis statement. So use the slides, use the video to take notes over what makes a good thesis statement. There's a practice that I've also included. Feel free to watch the entire video or just go through the slides. And essentially your homework is to do the attendance, go through the slides or video, and then rewrite your thesis for the happiness essay. So if you remember a long time ago, you were asked to write an essay stating your position on whether a person can choose to be happy. So just open up that essay again, rewrite your thesis statement, which is your position and a reason, and that will be for a grade. The rubric is in the assignment, and it's graded on a 70, 85, like 100 scale, so it should be fairly easy. Just make sure you highlight your thesis statement in the new document, and I will grade that, and we'll talk about it next class. But if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email me, to text me. We'll catch up on Wednesday. So I'll see you on Wednesday. Okay, so let's talk about the summative number 2, this revised persuasive essay. So earlier, you wrote an essay about this. Well, most of you did. 1, 2, 3, 4 of you have not submitted it yet. So make sure you turn this essay in if you haven't already. So earlier for the STAR interim, you wrote an essay about this prompt. Okay. And now we're going to revisit it. We're going to revise it. So let's take a look at the prompt again, because it's been a while. And actually, if everyone right now can go ahead and open up into Schoology. Go to materials, and I'll show you what it looks like. So go scroll down to materials, go into the day 11 through 13 folder, and open up this one right here, the STAR interim persuasive essay. So open up your copy right now. In the STAR test, you have 3 sections: the revising and editing section, multiple choice, the reading comprehension, multiple choice, and the STAR essay. And for English 2, it's a persuasive essay. So you're going to get a prompt that looks just like this. As a reminder, the prompt was write an essay stating your position on whether a person can choose to be happy. And it has the requirements stating your position, which means a thesis statement, having evidence, which is your examples, having word choice and organization, and grammar, spelling mechanics. Okay, so you're going to get something like this, and it will look exactly like this. Imagine you're writing this for a grader who's scoring hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these essays, right? So you need to make sure you do it correctly, and also make it a good essay that someone wants to read. If you're bored writing it, the reader's going to be bored reading it. So what you need to do when you come across this section, you need to ignore the top part. Okay, all of that up there, do not use it. Okay, instead, what you need to focus on is at the bottom right here. The reason why I want you to ignore this stuff, because it's trying to distract you. They purposefully add distractors. So they're like, okay, so-and-so is going to write about Anne Frank. And it's not bad to write about Anne Frank. Like she would be a good example for this prompt. But imagine all the sophomores in Texas get this prompt. And this was a prompt. And they get this prompt and everyone's reading it. Guess how many students will like say, oh, I'm going to use Anne Frank in my essay. And so as the grader gets their stack of essays that they're reading, they're like, oh, another Anne Frank essay. Oh, another one. another one with the quote, another one with that quote. And so hundreds and hundreds of students are most likely going to use that quote, and it's not going to make your essays original, right? So we highly, highly recommend not using the quotation here. It's cliche, and a lot of people are going to be using it, and it's not going to make your essay stand out. And 2, ignore this. This isn't really, it's just it says think carefully about this statement. It doesn't say to write about it. It doesn't say to focus on it. It just says think about it. So might as well ignore it, right? It's not catered to the prompt. What you need to focus on is writing an essay stating your opinion on whether a person can choose to be happy. Okay, any questions? So let's move on. So after rereading the prompt, what we recommend doing, so a lot of you, probably what you did is you read the prompt and you just started writing, right? And that's okay to do, but for a test that's kind of has a lot of stakes, although it doesn't determine your intelligence, but there's a lot on the line. If you don't do well on the essay, most likely you will fail the STAR test. But if you make a passing score, like a 3 out of 4 on the essay, you should be good to go. If you can take a second to brainstorm both sides of the argument, because this is a persuasive essay, it has 2 sides. It will always have 2 sides. This will help you kind of break down on what to do. So what we highly, highly recommend is once you read the prompt, split it up. Make it a little T-chart on your screen or on a sheet of paper and break it down. So write an essay stating your position on whether a person can choose to be happy. So I know one side is people can choose to be happy, or people cannot choose to be happy. And before I choose a side, I'm going to list out all the different reasons why some people can be happy and some people cannot choose to be happy. And based off of that, I will make a decision. So like, for example, I'm like, if initially when I look at this, I'm like, no, people cannot choose to be happy. That's just how I feel. But if I do this activity, I might realize I only have like one detail that I wrote in this box, whereas I have like 3 really detailed examples here. And I'm like, oh, actually, maybe I should go to the other side because I have more to write about versus the first. So you need to be very careful which side you choose. Like you need to choose one that you actually have evidence for. Okay, so after you brainstorm both sides, you're going to choose a side, like I said earlier, the one that has the best evidence, the one that you feel like you are passionate about. Again, we highlight the word one because it needs to be one side. It's a persuasive essay. You don't want to be wishy-washy. Okay, so what I would like us to do is go ahead and take a second and look at the requirements of a thesis statement. And if you want to write this down, I highly recommend writing this down. Or what you can do is you can open up to the thesis statement practice in the day 15 folder. It looks like this. And it actually kind of has the notes already there for you. So if you open it up, you can access these notes, and then you can add additional notes. Like for example, later on, I'm going to tell you to put a star next to this one, because I think this one's really important. So feel free to take a second to open that up. First of all, I don't think I put anywhere what a thesis statement is. So I'm going to put it in the chat right now. A thesis statement is basically the main idea of your essay. Okay, it's going to tell you what your essay is going to be about. So essentially, it's your argument. If you want to write that somewhere, that it's the main idea, or even I would even refine that to the main argument of your essay. Okay, so you have this prompt, you're going to answer your prompt. So it's the answer to the prompt. Okay, so you can add that to your notes. A thesis statement is the answer to the prompt. It's the main argument of your essay, and it's going to include 4 things. And those 4 things, first of all, 1, you need to use a little bit of the prompt. And this will help you guarantee that you're answering the prompt. Okay, so you have to use some of the wording. So in this case, you need to maybe use the word at least happiness somewhere in there, and choice somewhere in that thesis statement. Okay. Number 2, You need to clearly choose one side. This is really important, okay? If you are wishy-washy and you're like, yeah, people can choose to be happy, but sometimes they can't choose to be happy because of blah, 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 but sometimes they can. Like, does that sound very persuasive? Are you persuading me anything if you were to say that? Like, no, that's like saying you're on both sides. That's not an argument, okay? It makes you seem insecure and unsure. And in your writing, you want to be definite. You want to make sure, I have the answer. This is it. It is this position, okay? Number 3, you need to provide one general reason as support. Okay. So this one's really, really important. This one gets you from a failing thesis statement to a passing thesis statement really quickly. So go ahead and put a star next to it, underline it, highlight it. And I'm going to explain a little bit more detail about general reasons. So ways you can use this, and you can see the examples underneath the notes. There are certain sentence stems that you can use. So you can use like words like na 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 na, because na 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 na. Okay, or you can say your position due to na na na. Okay, so some words that you can use are because that gives a reasoning. Like, this is my position because blank. Or you can say due to reason. This is my position, blah, 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 blah. Okay, this is correct. So you really need a general reason to make it strong. And you need at least one. Some people like to include 2. I wouldn't include any more than 2. Actually, 1 is sufficient because it makes it concise and makes it clear. Don't do 3. If you provide 3 reasons, that's a lot. And the STAR essay only limits you to 1750 characters, okay? One other thing I want to add in, I'm asking for a reason, not an example in your thesis statement, right? Because it needs to be the main idea of your essay, and you don't want to include your examples, like save that for the body paragraphs. So I don't want to see something like, this is a no-no. I don't want to see something like, I'm going to choose a random prompt. Actually, let's do this. Happiness can be chosen because one time my mom told me that no. Like, that's, you don't want to do that. That may be a reason, but it's an example. It's a specific example. Instead, we want something general, something like happiness can be chosen because people tend to blank. Okay. And the last thing, number 4, it needs to be one sentence. It needs to be clear, concise. One sentence should do it, nothing more than that. Typically in an essay, you kind of see it right, one sentence at the end of the introduction, and your reader knows, okay, that's their focus. There it is. I see it. It's 1 sentence long. I got it. I know what they're talking about. So here's a nice formula that I highly recommend copying down. I think it's already there in your notes, but if it's not, copy this down. Position, because, reason. Or position due to reason. Or if you want to use our complex sentence stuff, you can say, you can do this instead, because of reason, position. If you want to do the, the swap. Okay, so here's an example one. Write an essay stating your position, whether it's better to live in a small town in a large city. So I'm going to think about it. I'm like, okay, which one do I have more to talk about? Okay, based off personal experiences, I'm going to write big city because I live in Austin. So I will then have a position. I chose large city, so I'm going to say it is better to live in a big city. Boom, right there. I already got the position. Technically, I could stop there, but that's not a good thesis statement. That leaves out the reasoning, right? It's a little bit blank. It's a little bit basic. But if I give a reasoning, it makes it stronger. So it is better to live in a big city because larger cities offer more opportunities. Boom. And then I know in your body paragraphs, you're going to talk about how maybe a city has multitude of opportunities, right? And it's a little bit more specific. It's a little bit more in-depth and complex rather than it's better to live in a big city, right? There's more focus in this thesis statement because I gave a reason. That handout that I gave you, that you have open, the thesis statement handout, there's the practice right here. So go ahead and scroll down. And we're going to be working on this. So as we're going through this, feel free to type in this document right here. And we're going to be sharing out with the class in a second. So this probably will never be on the STAR test, but it's a nice one to practice with, okay? So let's say on the STAR test, it tells you, write an essay stating your position on whether a person should feel guilty about killing a zombie. Okay, so take a second, think about what position you would be, okay? And if you haven't already, open up that practice and complete the T-chart. So I'm gonna put a timer for 3 minutes. And I want you to think of all the different reasons why someone could say, here, I'll move on, that a person should feel guilty, and all the different reasons why a person would say a person shouldn't feel guilty. So I'm gonna share out like answers up here in the slides, so you can always access these slides if you need extra help in thinking of reasons. But let's go ahead and get started. So let's start with the first, or wait, let me unmute myself somewhere else. Okay, there we go. Sorry, y'all. So let's go ahead and get started with the first section right here. So can someone give me some reasons why a person should feel guilty about killing a zombie? Thank you. Okay, because it once was a human, okay? So I could put a person should feel guilty because it once was a human, okay? What other reasons? Okay, people should feel guilty because there may be a possibility for them to recover. Okay, any other reasons? Okay, it might be a family member, right? So if, because should feel guilty because there might be close personal ties. Okay, and scared of consequences, right? Because it's still like you're still practicing like killing in a sense, right? So because they could, because they still could face the consequences of killing. Okay. Good. That's a good start. Can I have some for the person, a person should not feel guilty? Can I have a few? I need at least 3. A person should not feel guilty because they, or I have to clarify, the zombies could potentially harm or infect others. And then you said like, because in self-defense, I can't spell. It's yeah, it is necessary. And then, or because technically they are no longer alive and worth like maybe saving, okay? And then they're gonna eat your brains, so better you than them. Yeah, and self-defense is necessary, and we don't know how many. So maybe because they will or have caused more harm. Okay, excellent. These are good reasons. Now that you have the reasons, let's choose the side that you want to go on, okay? So you're going to choose one. And what I want you to do is practice writing a strong thesis statement for that one, Everyone chose the second option. Awesome. Okay. So I want you to practice writing a strong thesis statement for that. But what I need you to do first is understand what makes a strong thesis statement. So we already talked about the 4 categories, but let's actually look at them in a little bit more detail before we dive right in and try to write one. Okay. Let's look at strong thesis statements versus weak thesis statements really, really quick. So we're going to review the next couple of slides between a strong and weak thesis, and then I'll let you write your thesis statement for the zombie prompt. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Okay, it's about whether or not career training should be a part of a high school curriculum. So we have this thesis statement here. Career training should be part of a high school education because it will help students feel more prepared when they graduate. So what do we think? Is this one is a strong thesis statement or a weak thesis statement? Okay. So this first one, the answer is, it is strong. 53% of y'all said it was strong. About 30% of y'all said it was weak. Technically, this is considered strong because 1, it takes a sign. It says career training should be a part of the education. Okay, so that's their position. And then it has a reason because it will help students feel more prepared. Looks good to me. Okay, let's try another one. So this one's about whether learning always has a positive effect or not. Okay, so do you think this one is going to be strong or weak? Let me read it out loud. Learning sometimes has a positive effect on a person's life, but it depends on the person and the situation because then the person may not learn anything. And the correct answer is weak. Okay, it doesn't pick a side. It says, learning sometimes has a positive effect, but it depends because they may not. So they're wishy-washy. We don't like that. We like choosing one side. So that's what makes this one weak. Let's do it again. Next one. So this one's about whether college education should be free to all students. So it says, college education should be free for all students because most families cannot afford the price of a university. 70% of y'all have got it correct. Some of you haven't voted yet. It's strong because it takes a clear side. We have college education should be free. And it has a reason because families cannot afford the price of a university. Okay. Last one. This one is about whether school uniforms should be mandated or not. So, students should not have to wear them because it is a way to express their individuality. They cost a lot of money, and it will be hard to enforce because there are a lot of public schools around the country. The correct answer is, y'all, it's weak, okay? It seems strong because, one, they do choose a side, right? But they have 3 different reasons. And some teachers in middle school have taught y'all to use 3 body paragraphs. With this essay, we don't recommend doing that because we rather we focus on quality over quantity. And this is a lot. They have 3 reasons here. So in this essay that needs to fit into 1750 characters, they have to write about their individuality, money, and the difficulty to enforce. That's a lot, and that's going to be too much and not enough space to be supported. Okay, we only recommend 1 reason. Okay, now that we know what is a strong thesis statement and a weak thesis statement, you're going to write your own thesis statement for the zombie prompt. And I'm going to give you about a couple minutes to do it because we're almost out of time. You're going to open up a document called Revised Persuasive Essay. You're going to open up your old essay that you wrote about happiness. And what you're going to do is copy and paste that essay into the new document. You're going to copy your draft below. And after you copy it, you're going to ask yourself, I'm going to look at my thesis statement. First of all, can I find it? If you can't find it, write one because you need one, okay? And then did I state part of the prompt? Did I clearly choose one side?
Did I provide at least one reason as support? Did I show my argument in one sentence? And then revise it. Make it look really nice and neat and good. And that's it. Highlight it in a different color, please, so I can grade it. It will be for a daily grade. The whole essay itself will be for a major grade, but I'm just going to grade your thesis statement. The rubric is already in the assignment, so you can look at that. It's based off a 70, 85, 100 scale, so feel free to look. I'm looking for a clear, concise, has a position, it's grammatically correct. Like, I'm looking for all those nice things. And yeah, next class, we're going to add more to our introduction and plan our body paragraphs.
Bye, y'all. Say hello. Say hello to my B-Day classes. I can't really see you. Say hi.